I cannot imagine, I just can't imagine how an organization could achieve success, could achieve its objectives with an ineffective people component. I mean, I just, you know, I can't, there may be an organization that's able to do that, but I just can't imagine how you can design product, how you can make product, how you can sell product, how you can provide services. I mean, who does that?
Customers, employees, managers, leaders, and other community members all contribute to the creation of organizations. But unless these diverse parts relate to one another, there is no organization. Only the individual, the entrepreneur, the pioneer, each on their independent mission. Organizations can best excel when there is full collaboration of our human energy. The reality is that organizations are created by the gifts of our differences and the effectiveness of our relationships. Organizations that lead with differences, as much as cooperation, will be the ones to succeed. Whether it's the ecosystem, the human body, a computer, an airplane, or an organization, it only works because all the parts are different and relate to each other effectively.
Equipment can be changed, equipment is discardable, but it's the people that have the knowledge, and that knowledge is always evolving and always improving. The real key is making sure that we have the relationships, the sensitivity, so that we can utilize the asset, because it's not enough to have the asset. One has to be able to utilize those assets, have the relationships to bring them out, and really get the most out of each and every one of those assets.
Excuse me, are you Ray Dennis from sales?
Yeah.
I'm Eva Tompkins from accounting. This new inventory system is beautiful. I sent you some plans last week on how sales and accounting could coordinate goals.
Probably just hasn't crossed my desk yet.
If we could learn not only to tolerate, or even just to value, but to lead and leverage our differences toward a higher organizational outcome, then we would have not only an organizational competitive advantage, but even a national competitive advantage that most nations don't have.
We look at organizations and rank ordered them according to how well they were doing regarding diversity. We also looked at organizations in terms of their financial performance. We correlated diversity performance with finance performance, and we discovered very clearly the best companies regarding diversity are also the most profitable, and the worst companies regarding diversity performance were also the least profitable, thus producing a statistically significant relationship between diversity performance and financial performance.
Relationships drive business performance. The relationships that we have with our customers, as well as the relationships that we have with each other, really make a difference to our financial performance.
The bottom line business case is, if you want to be around in the future, you better get on top of diversity, because one, our customers are much more diverse. We are a global economy, a global marketplace. If you don't have a sense that you are a world citizen and that there are people wanting to buy many products, there are people that have distinct tastes all over the world, and you're not on top of that, and you're not creatively looking for ways to capitalize and utilize and celebrate those differences, you may not be around in the future doing business.
Our customers come in to visit us because they're looking for a product. If we don't have a sense of what they want, if we don't have a relationship with them to get the information that we need in order to supply the products that they want, they're going to go elsewhere. So it makes just an awful lot of sense to have a direct link between the customer and the business, and you do that through a relationship.
Most consumers today are very sophisticated, and they want to do business with companies that reflect some of the things that they believe in, and they want to see themselves on the other side of the counter, other side of the phone, other side of the desk. Customers being discriminating if they feel for some reason that a company doesn't represent or their best interests, they will go shop someplace else.
If you look over our record over the last 5 years, I think you'll find that this is precisely
Why don't we hold
the...
off on that?
Lee gets so excited he tends to get ahead of himself. Let me take a step back for a moment and get us back on the right track.
Obviously, they have some problems that they need to work out on their own, and they really have no place in our business. That's not how we run our company. So I don't think we'll be doing any business with them.
I think you can have the best product out there, but unless you know how to market it to a certain culture, it's not going to go anywhere. It's going to sit in that storeroom. It's going to sit in that box.
I believe your differences combined with mine brought together is a far greater power than the two of us in any kind of separate nature.
As we have differences in ideas, we get really a panorama of a wealth, like you might say, a cornucopia of ideas, rather than everyone just thinking alike. We tend to be very stagnant when we're that way. Different ideas give us different opinions. Light bulbs start going on all over, and enabling us to come up with better solutions than we otherwise would have had if we had just people all who thought alike.
By organizations valuing differences and valuing relationships, what they get is a more colorful decision-making process. They get unique ideas, they stimulate creativity, innovation, and all of that only makes for better decisions.
I'm going to come to you because you're different. I know how me and other people like me think. I begin then to seek out the folks that I know are different. I begin to form teams based on the fact that I've got differences.
The best teams are the ones that are made up of people who are really different.
My intuition is we should do a competitive analysis, and I agree with Horacio.
Well, I've worked out a plan that I think just about covers all of it. I'll get it to all of you.
If you had everyone who was simply the visionary, no one would ever get the job done. They'd just have a wonderful time looking out over the landscapes of the future.
As people work together in project teams, and we are an organization that focuses a lot on project teams and cross-functional teams, that being able to work effectively with each other is very important. And certainly research has shown that the more diverse the teams are, the higher the productivity is.
As all of us are asked to do more with less, relationship becomes more and more critical. If you and I have a good relationship with trust and something is not going well, I will share that information with you earlier so that you can act in a prevention mode.
You know, the reason we're behind is because somebody up there promised a delivery date that's not practical. I know, but it's done. What can we do now?
As opposed to waiting until I just have to, and we have to go into the cure mode, which is usually much more painful and requires more energy from me and requires more energy from you.
I have read so many reports that indicate we're utilizing less than 50% of the potential inherent in all of our employees. If I were a shareholder, I'd be a little upset that corporations were allowing us to lose that kind of productivity.
If we take all of these diverse groups in our workforce and we bring them together and we can really foster this relationship business, which I think is the bottom line of an effective organization, then we can get those relationships to work, then the products that come out will satisfy those diverse customers. The products that come out will bring our communities together because people will say, this is what I want. And internally in the organization, bringing these diverse elements together will create an organizational climate that will be supportive of these diverse elements, and then you will have a more productive workplace.
It's enlightened self-interest in many ways, because if the organization is not successful, there will not be a place for the individual to go to work, whether it's in his or her department or in the organization as a whole. So that for the individual to work at building relationships, yes, we say it's good for the company, but it's also good for the individual.
They want it to be the kind of place where they want to go to work, that they can feel good about working there until the day they decide to leave there. So understanding each other, communicating with each other, and respecting each other is the key to having that kind of a workplace where we all want to go to work.
Our ability to attract the best and the brightest talent from a very shrinking labor pool will be based on our ability to say to those folks that are coming in, you can be successful here, that we're going to value the differences that you bring to the workplace based on your cultural, your educational, your ethnic background. Tapping into the best and the brightest and getting that talent is a business issue. From a retention standpoint, people will not stay where they're not comfortable, where they don't see a vision for success, where they don't see role models. So our ability to retain that talent will create a business case.
The biggest barrier is the temptation of imposing your own viewpoint on everyone else. They want what I want. They do, if I did that, I would be angry, so they must be angry. Of imposing your own interpretation on everyone else.
It's interesting, in my studies, I find that often human resources is a barrier to diversity, and I think because it's seen as another human resources program. And anytime you attach program to diversity, you're in trouble, because it's one more thing that people have to worry about. It's one more thing to do.
And trust within your work team. Fat chance they know anything about trust. Probably those shrinks in human resources.
But I think human resources can play a real strategic role by, again, aligning it with business units, business functions, and really training managers, line people, on how to move this forward themselves.
Hey, Ray, what's up? Can I help?
Help yourself, Carlos. It's dog-eat-dog around here.
What's missing? Trust. The company can say, well, we're not going to do it that way anymore. We're not going to be all hierarchical. We're all going to be teams now. Everyone's going to be, we're going to have the lower levels, so to speak, be empowered. I don't think that people quite trust that yet, and I don't know that people are clear how to really come to that.
It requires more time. It always requires more time. It is easier for me to tell you what to do than it is for me to look at your differences, value you for them, and then try to understand how you will add value to our organization. It's always easier for me just to make the decision. It's wrong, but it's easier.
Interviewing at most corporations is a rigorous process. You bring the candidates in to meet all of your top executives. They go through several rounds, and you make what you think is the best hiring decision to bring in the best people from the workplace. But once we bring them in, we don't create an environment so that they can contribute and give us their best. They're not allowed to be spontaneous, not allowed to be creative, and just show us all of the good qualities that they have.
When I started here, it's fair to say some people were not exactly on my side. I have no idea how much of it was conscious and how much of it they wouldn't have recognized in themselves on a bet.
In an organization, when you're not allowed to be fully who you are, those shields that are up require a tremendous amount of energy, which is depleting, which again is not proactive, it's not productive. It costs the organization significant amounts of money that oftentimes we can't calculate because we haven't put together the right systems, processes, procedures to even capture the fact that it's happening.
Simply because of the color of your skin or your gender, whatever it might be, I look at you, and if I don't see value in you because you're not like me, then I've lost the ability to create that power between you and me. Without that power, there's no reason for us being. As a result, you'll go your way, I will go mine, and we'll not create the synergy that we need to have to improve our organization.
I think one of the most important things is to be very, very clear about your objectives. And make sure that your objectives create a vision that will drive the whole organization. One can always change the way we try and reach those objectives, how we manage those objectives. One, in fact, must be very flexible about the strategy and how we put it into place. But be more clear about why you're doing it. In my experience, once people are clear about why, and they recognize the self-interest, they recognize that it's a bottom line organizational issue, you get that momentum going, and then the action will follow. But allow some flexibility, because what works today may not work tomorrow.
If organizations have a tendency to look at diversity, to look at people effectiveness in the broad sense, as somehow an adjunct, an auxiliary kind of thing, a different path. We've got the business, hard criteria, measurable, quantifiable things going in this direction. We got the people, the soft things going in this direction. Then I'll suggest to you that the organization is not going to be as successful as when they see these as an integrated path, and their business strategy has a very crucial people component.
It also includes the work of organizational change, which means looking at every system in the organization and making sure that diversity is a part of that system.
Whether it's benefits, whether it's marketing, whether it's compensation, recruitment, strategic planning, have somebody there to provide the perspective of how diversity can impact those different business functions.
I really feel that you can't do a good job in the marketplace with diversity if you're not doing a good job inside your organization. The way people work together, the way they manage their differences really show up to the customer. And so we really look at leveraging our internal resources to serve our marketplace.
We have people that are knowledgeable of 2 or 3 cultures. We have people that have been brought up in a wide variety of environments. We have people of all sorts, and we aren't actually tapping the individual creativity and talents of those people as well as we could. And that's the first message really here, is tapping each individual's talents to the maximum of their potential.
As a manager, I think that in order to empower your employees, to create that energy, to want to do better, to want to do more, that we have to create the environment in which they feel safe to do that, so that even if they get into situations that may not necessarily be what we want, that there's not a fear of not being accepted or being discouraged from trying anything new. And I think it is really the responsibility of managers to really build that foundation for employees.
I think many companies have good intentions of building that foundation, but they really haven't really come to grips with the fundamental belief systems of being a human company and focusing on the human aspects, the humanity aspects of relationship building. They're still a little bit torn between the notion of bottom line and being human. And they have to really come to grips with, first of all, am I going to create a climate where human beings can be themselves, produce, feel safe, feel secure, regardless of their sexual orientation, their ethnicity, their race, their discipline differences, where they can really feel safe. Now, once corporations focus on that, then they can capitalize on the productivity that will come out of diverse people working in a safe environment.
You find out that when you create an environment in the workplace where individuals are no longer afraid, then you know you have hit the magical moment. When they come to work feeling good. You know, not that work is going to be easy. Work is always going to be work. But they feel good coming to work.
The organization has to build a climate, even when they're downsizing, that allows for relationships to be built, for leverage, for utilizing both differences and commonalities to build an organization that's going to function in what is a totally new environment.
Responsibility for leveraging diversity in an organization starts with the senior leadership.
We've lost one of our key people. There is something terribly off here. So, for starters, I'd like to know where I've gone wrong.
But it actually is everyone's responsibility to leverage diversity. In other words, the senior leaders must actually lead the charge, but all employees will need to have the right behaviors, the right skills in order to leverage diversity.
Some of these are good things for Zach and the other people to keep in mind. Like here.
Lily, I understand from Mike that sometimes I don't pay attention. How would you feel about taking a more active role in getting this product to market?
Yes!
I thought you would never ask.
Most employees will emulate the level above them in terms of the role modeling. How do I respond to issues? So it's very important for the CEO as the top level of management to set the tone. Each level will usually follow suit. So if we set the tone that diversity is important to our organization, then each level below that will respond the same way.
One of the major roles that I have is unlocking the power of 100,000 minds. How many people work in our organization? If we can do that, then you don't need me at the top, because that's a useless discussion anymore. What we have is a system. And when you think about it, it's a circular system, and we're all contained inside of it.
It is the DNA of the organization. So it's a challenge that has to be dealt with very systemically, very holistically in the organization. You need to tackle it from all angles. You can't just put it in a box and say, okay, we've got a diversity program, we've got a relationship program. It's something that has to be dealt with very systemically throughout the organization. It needs a strategy, it needs commitment from the top, it needs participation from the bottom, and it needs a kind of leadership that's going to ensure that it's handled like a process as opposed to a training program with a beginning and an end. It's more of an ongoing change thing that is going to take place over a period of time.
When we're talking about the bottom line of business, diversity is a reality. The workforce is different. It's changing. We have a global economy. Those are realities that we have to respond to, and better to be proactive than responsive. So I think there are real opportunities, and again, it's not a decision of whether or not to do it. It's when do we do it, and how do we do it.
Relating across our differences is something that begins today, and it's something that's going to continue and continue and continue. So in essence, the way we need to deal with it is as an ongoing process. Something that we need to build on and something that we need to correct over time. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not like thunderstorm on barren land. It's more like gentle rain over time in an effort to change the organization's culture to one that leads with diversity and values diversity.
The goal I see is to literally help organizations transform themselves to a higher level of energy. And they get that energy from people engaged in relationships, groups involved in team building and relationship. And that is the energy that both drives and sustains the transformation to new ways of conducting your business.
I think the reality is that just like we take care of machines, just as we take care of our equipment, like we monitor the bottom line in terms of financial resources, workplace relationship is key and is very vital and must be placed as one of the #1 priorities, since we have realized that even with the invention of modern technologies, robots and everything, that humans still continue to be and will continue to remain the most important asset in the workplace.
Relationships, differences, no greater challenge, yet no greater opportunity. Your differences, when combined with my differences, create a much greater whole than we could ever see from two homogeneous natures. Why wouldn't we do that?
People are full of potential energy, and we make constant choices that transform this human energy into outcomes that deplete or enhance the workplace and marketplace. Organizations that strive for higher performance must ask strategic questions and discover why diversity and relationship are important to their organization. What are the barriers to change? How do they change and begin to lead with their differences? And who will be responsible for change? The answers to these questions will provide organizations with directions to change and to create an environment that will utilize human energy to enhance the bottom line. When diverse parts are all operating to their fullest potential, relating in a manner that enhances the organization as a whole, we will discover the power of synergy, leading to breakthrough performance.